some stories. I'll tell you one. I'll start you from the start up until now. I'm old now, so it's a long story. I wasn't deaf through illness. I was born deaf from birth. Don't know, maybe genetically that's why. My mum's deaf, my father was deaf, but hard of hearing really. He can speak, my father, he can use the phone with his hearing aids, he's fine. But my mum, she's full deaf, profoundly deaf. And later my sister and I, we were both born deaf, both profoundly deaf. Could hear absolutely nothing. With a hearing aid really helped me to hear sort of like sounds, like a shout or a bang. I can hear the sound, but the words, no, I can't hear those, they're distorted. I can feel the vibrations, if you like. And I grew up deaf. I went to deaf school when I was 2.5. Not when I was 5, 2.5, because communication is really important. I went to William Morris School. And he's a very famous person, William Morris. He's a famous artist. He designs carpets and wallpapers. So that's why he was born in Walthamstow, so that's why they call it, or born in the same place as my school, that's why they call it William Morris School. But sign language there wasn't allowed. It was only an oral method. That's back then, 1952, a long time ago, I went there. I grew up sort of oral environment, but my mother and father and my sister signed, so it was useful to have the two, because I have best of both worlds. They helped me to lip read, very clear lip read, and some deaf schools or deaf people, it's very poor lip reading skills. But my parents helped me sign, and the school helped me to do that. And so when I was at school, can we go back? When I was writing and studying at school, and the teacher was oral, so I would get all the information, about 50% I would say, but the other half went completely over my head. I didn't understand it. For the hard of hearing, it was better, I think. When I was 16, I was reading a book. I had the reading age of about an 8-year-old. Because, in the class we were all about the same. At the home, my mother and father helped me, and I felt confident there. I could feel I was top in the class because my mother and father signed, and I got more information from home. We didn't have subtitles on the televisions back then. It was black and white television, and so we only had the 2 channels as well. And my father was hard of hearing, and my sister and I would both watch TV, the TV programs. Cowboys or goodies or baddies, and we'd watch sort of their expressions and their emotions, and we could see that. And my father would really interpret for us, so that was good. I look back, my sister and I think perhaps that's why we like to be actors now, because of that influence from back then, the TV. But that was before subtitles and colour television. Back then it was really quite stressful then. But at school, the reading writing, that was all fine. But at playtime, we would be in little groups, I suppose, and we were allowed to use sign language. We could use sign language because their parents were all the same. Shush, we can have a sign now. And the teachers, the staff there, if they caught us, do you know what happened? We would have to hold our hand out and we'd be caned. Yeah, it was a punishment. Just in my language. I wish I could go back to the school now, but it's closed down now. And at 16 I left. My sister was at the same school as me, and we both left when we were 16. But my sister, she passed her 11 plus, so she went to grammar school. She went to Mary Hare Grammar School. It's not far from Newbury, near Reading, that area. It's a really good school, and it really helped her build her confidence. And she learnt a lot of English, and she was a bit of a late developer, I think. And my sister helped me sort of with my English, and I'm starting to learn English. But now my English, it's not great. It's still plain English, I would say. But because BSL is my first language, British Sign Language is my first language. But I compared myself to other schools. Their sign language is really strong, but their lip reading is quite poor. You know, it's really broken lip reading, so I benefit of both worlds really. First, because I went to an oral school. Secondly, because I had a deaf family. And also because thirdly, I have hearing friends, you know, because of football and sort of mixture of both worlds. It means it helped me now become a sign language teacher, so I can adjust my register to whatever the other person needs, you know, oral, BSL, sign, English. So I've become really flexible, I think, by a rich range of language. And that's more healthy, I think, than one boring language. You know, it's much better. And I look back, all the changes, lots of work, and I've had to do lots of my friends went to oral school. They don't have professional jobs. They're good with their hands, like tailoring, carpentry, painting. They're all good with their hands. More visual, I think. But reading and writing, not so good. And I look back, I'm really the first person to become involved in politics, education, the television world, acting. And I look back, I feel really proud, and I thank my parents, my sister, my oral education. But now, you know, I look at oral schools and they carry on saying, they're boring jobs like car spraying and things like that, because people sort of working go into decorating jobs like that. We're about 12. I was doing. Sorry, can we go back? No, I wasn't working as car spray. That's another friend. But I was a decorator for 12 years. That was my. It was my ex-wife. She was a sign language teacher, and she became ill, and she asked me to cover her evening class. And I said, "Oh no way! I'm a patron decorator. I can't teach." And she said, "Please. I've phoned so many people, and they can't take over for me. It's just a one-off. Please, could you teach it?" So I started to enjoy teaching, and I was just hooked. And I went to a course, 3 or 4 courses, different courses to teach sign language. I've been doing it for about 24 years now. So that was an accident. I just sort of fell into it. And then it became really my friends would say, you become a man for all seasons. You come in an assessor, you become a theatre, you're into the theatre, you're an actor, a teacher. What more can you do? It's better than one boring job though, I think. I like different jobs, you know. It means, you know, go round and round and do all different things. It becomes more interesting, much more. I'm a bit worried, about deaf education. Deaf schools are closing. About 75% of deaf schools have closed down now, and they've moved to mainstream schools. About 1/3 of people now, maybe 30 children, and you've got 3 deaf children in that class. And they have to learn. They've got to learn. You know, how do they learn sign language? They have a cochlear implant. There's so many cuts. Then you really have to fight with the government to recognise BSL as a language, but it's a very slow process. Very slow. But recently, one group, deaf group, set up the BSL Act. I think there's only over 10,000 petitions. Petition the government to recognise BSL. I think it was recognised in 2003, but that's 10 years ago now. You know, what improvements have there been? Nothing. There's been nothing. Other countries, you know, the government the government that has helped other countries with other languages and other religions, but here in Britain, nothing's happened for the deaf community. The government really need to wake up. They really need to become more aware. It's just such a challenge. It's such a problem all the time. It's really challenging. Like for the television license, we have to pay the full fee, but we don't get subtitles on every programme. That doesn't seem fair. But the hearing programmes, they have voiceover. But if there's any problem, if the voice, they can't hear it, they pause it, don't they, until it gets back to normal, and then the civil service is resumed and we'll carry on again. But that doesn't happen for deaf people. There are no deaf rights in that respect. And also access to the cinema as well. I asked, really, the cinema should have subtitles. And recently, my friend went to the cinema. There was only 2 deaf people went in the audience, and they should have subtitles that day. I forget the name of the film, but they sat down to watch it, and they sat down and it started, and there were no subtitles. So they went to the manager and asked, where are the subtitles? And he said, it's not worth it, there's only 2 deaf people there. It's not, what's the point? They were so angry. I've paid. No, it's just, it's just one of... And they said, no, we need deaf access. It's important, we should have deaf access. It's the same attitude all over. They treat deaf like the second class, and that's not fair. We're equal. We should be treated fairly. But it's a slow process getting the awareness, I think. But now, children, I think, it's better for the children with subtitles and teaching access. They have communication support workers, CSWs, when they go to college. Not all, but some colleges can't afford it, because it's too expensive to have the support. It depends on the council, the borough and the council, where they're going to get their education. It's like me, Debbie, the interpreter now, that's me. I'm communicating. Without me, without the interpreter, I'd have to write everything down in a book for you. But interpreter really has to learn 2 languages. It's there for both languages. But now technology is better because with Minicom and they're really old-fashioned type talk. I live in Surrey. I'm sorry, yes, I live in Surrey. And they provide me with, it's new technology. It's like a screen with a camera. From Monday till Friday, 8 till 5, I'm allowed that. If I want to phone someone, I press the phone number, and it comes up on the screen, and the other person on the other end of the line is an interpreter, an operator, and they sign to me, so it's visual, so I can see, and then the operator can relay the message using speech. But the problem is it's so limited, 8 till 5, 9 o'clock till 5. And if I want to, late in the evening, or it's an emergency or the weekend, I'm stuffed. Have to wait until we've got more funding, and then hopefully the service will grow and grow. But technology, it's slow. It's improving. It's better now. But with all but now the deaf schools are closing down. But technology is better. The government are trying to cut corners and save money. Yeah, all the deaf schools are closing down, but there are lots of churches. They don't close those down. They're leaving those open, but it's sad because a lot of deaf culture and beautiful deaf schools are being closed down. My wife, her school in Red Hill, it's beautiful, beautiful school. It's old. it looks like a castle. It's really beautiful in Surrey. Oh, it's in Nutfield, near Red Hill. And it's closed down, and now it's become a 4-star hotel now. Yes, that's my life. Yeah, that's a shame. Okay, that's lovely. Have you got any more questions?
Loads.
Oh, any questions?
For a start,
Yeah, really sort of opens your eyes to it, doesn't it? It really does.
well, the first question was, when you went to school, although it's great that you had the benefit of lip reading and vocal skills, I just wondered whether, the strictness about not signing made you find learning more of a trial, because if learning's a struggle, people start to have a negative feeling about learning. I did.
Yes, I felt abused, really. I abused my language. If I said to hearing people, sorry, you're not allowed to speak, you've got to use sign language. Imagine that. Put yourself in my place.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen. I mean, there's old-fashioned rules, old-fashioned policies.
But it actually impacted your own attitude to learning.
I feel sorry for the children, really. It carries on now. They're so confused. They go, like I said to you before, I had best of both worlds. I had the oral world, I had the deaf world. But I have oral girls, friends who went to oral school, and they left, and they were just not part of the deaf world at all. They get into the hearing world, and they can't speak. They're lost. They're in the middle. I feel I'm more flexible. I think it's really sad for them. It's really sad. They're neither one nor the other.
And the other thing I wanted to say was that the two people who were told by obviously a very, very ignorant manager that there were only 2 deaf people, so it wasn't worth it. Well, that's the same as saying you're not worth it. And honestly, if that had been me, I would have actually taken that very high to the, I would have even sued them if I could have. So I just wondered what happened as a result of that.
The manager
But that's
gave
not
their
good
money
enough.
back to the person who played, because they booked the one with subtitles. And it's I was going to fight for my rights. And also that's discrimination. But I don't know what
that
happened.
manager is ignorant and isn't able to do their job properly as a result, because they're just as equal customers as anybody else. So if somebody had turned up in a wheelchair and they'd said, sorry, there's only one person in a wheelchair, so we're not bothering today, you'll have to stay outside, that would have been against the law. I mean, they must have broken the law.
It's the Equality Act, yeah.
So I hope that those people took it further, because it should be taken further.
Yes, and lots of us deaf people now, we're getting better at that. But we're a group now. We're more powerful with our rights. We understand it more. We become more politically correct. We don't just sit and take it anymore. We're more assertive and we're campaigning. We've got a good group to sort of campaign about it. The BSL Act. It's we're not finished yet. We're still progressing.
The other thing, can I ask you one more question? You said that the deaf community is dying. Well, what happens to people who don't have implants and can't hear anything? Does that just mean that there aren't so many people in their community and they're left isolated?
Yeah, I feel now that the deaf people are just there aren't just so many people. And also the children are becoming brainwashed because they've got cochlear implants. The parents they become deafened because they're ill, or and so they have a cochlear implant because they're born hearing and they become deaf. And cochlear implants work well, but if they're born deaf and they have a cochlear implant, they can hear the sounds, but it's not like a hearing person. It's not the same. They can't phone, they can't speak. So what's the point? I think £30,000 or £40,000 per cochlear implant. You know, it's a waste of money.
Right, I see.
Some people are brain damaged. In America and France, some people that's happened. You know, it is a risk. Because they're drilling into your brain to put a cochlear implant into a young child. One child, a little girl, she was 2.5, and she had 2 cochlear implants. 2.5, she was a child. What about her rights? Her mother and father forced her. You know, it's so sad.
So in other words, people are choosing to go down the route for their children sometimes, not just for themselves. But, you know, it's almost like the only route or the most justifiable route is to do anything to improve your hearing and ignore other things that improve your life, your communication, your community, and your ability to mix with hearing people, which won't cause you brain damage. Now that's sacrificed in favour of anything that improves your hearing, or might even improve your hearing, but doesn't necessarily. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I remember in America, one person there, she sued her parents, she did her mother and father, because they gave her a cochlear implant without her permission. And she fought the law because it's after 16. You can decide then. That's fine. But you know, I don't want. It shouldn't be the parents that decide for the child. You know, the parents. When you're in hospital, the parents are shocked. Their baby is deaf. Oh, well, if we have a cochlear implant, then suddenly I have a perfect baby again. It's a changing world.
And the trouble is that if private companies are going to make money out of doing a medical procedure, they'll sell it to you. Which is exactly what's happening to the National Health Service. It's being sold off.
Yeah, promoting hearing. Come on, you can come and see. Your hearing will improve. You'll be better. There are 2 views. It's quite interesting. Hearing people say, if a person is in a wheelchair, if he could have an operation to walk again, that would make him better. Or if he's blind, he would see again. Then he'd say, yes, please. But if the deaf people, you know, if they want a cochlear implant, no, thank you. No, I don't want to hear again. Because they've grown up with their deaf culture. If you become a hearing person, now I'm confused. You know, where do I fit in? My life would just be so confused. You know, my lifestyle would just change. It's normal, you know, if it's an older person, a hearing person, about 60, who suddenly becomes hard of hearing, then a cochlear implant is fine because, you know, you're a hearing person. But if you're born deaf and suddenly you become a hearing person, gosh, you know, you try with a powerful hearing aid first. You know, just for one day, you know, I was really shocked. I went to the tube and the loudspeaker was so loud. There were the doors and the noise and the horns. Oh my goodness me, the alarms and everything. Silence was golden. It really was.
Well, actually, it's a mindset which only recognises one kind of person as being normal or right or okay. It's like a really fundamental, deep thing that we simply cannot somehow, in our consciousness, accept difference. That's one of the underlying issues.
It's always choose. They always choose a perfect guinea pig. Yeah, to show. Yeah, to show that, you know, that's a fake publicity, really. Yes, to use that one person to show. I'm sorry, you said something about the NHS and I missed.
The NHS has been sold off to private companies, and that each one of those private companies has the right to refuse treatment and select patients. It's in the law. In fact, Clause 4 of this law that was passed, which came into effect on the 1st of April 2013.
So the 4th April.
1st of April. Clause 4 states that if the Secretary of State for Health himself intervenes on your behalf because you've been refused treatment, the private company can sue the Secretary of State for Health for interfering with their right to do business. And this is something that affects every single man, woman, child in this country. And it's this new law that they have tried to close Lewisham Hospital down, a hospital with no debt, and a hospital which is very, very high in the quality ratings. And even if it wasn't, the solution would be to improve the hospital, not to remove access to treatment for a population of almost 300,000 people. And all the alternatives are much more inefficient, much less cost effective, and much, much more expensive for the taxpayer, but they allow private companies to access public funds, and that's the only reason for doing it.
Yeah, the government have control.
But this isn't even a government, this government said that the NHS was safe in their hands, remember? And the Liberal Democrats have rolled over and just acquiesced without the slightest, tiniest little, even though at their conference in spring 2011 when the bill was written, they, apart from one person, so you can't say it's unanimous, they overwhelmingly voted against this bill becoming an act. And 2,000 of the Liberal Democrat Party members signed a paper telling their MPs to vote against the Act, but they didn't. And honestly, it's already resulting in people dying unnecessarily, because in exactly the same way, the same way you described the mindset that channels people into getting implants, whether they're going to be the best choice or not. If a private company has a contract to do knee operations, the chances are, because this is the pattern, this is how it works all around the world, even if you don't need a knee operation, if it's not your knee, it's your ankle, they'll still do a knee operation, because that's the only thing they're going to get paid for. That's how private medicine works all around the world, in every country where it operates and in every different form of system. You might not need a knee operation, but you're going to get it, because that's how they get their payment. And once it's gone, this is absolutely crucial, really crucial, because the compensation clauses for private companies are so colossal that it's almost, you might as well say it's impossible to get the NHS back. I think it's going to change the character and the culture of this country.
Well, thank you. It's a really interesting discussion. Really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to go now.
I've
Have a
learned
lovely
something.
day. I hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.